What's up, everybody? I hope everyone's having a great day. My name is the narrator, and I just want you guys to know that we're trying to bring you the best content that we can on the latest topics and trends that are happening in the world right now. So if you like that type of content and you want to know, what's happening and stay up to date, make sure you drop a subscription down below, and if you feel like the video. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about is the news circulating about what actually transpired in Sky Williams' house. Now, if you guys aren't aware of the recent smash allegations coming out, particularly with the case of Zero and how he was living at Sky Williams' house, and there's multiple accusations and allegations coming out of just abuse happening there and just crazy stuff happening with minors, mind you. And the one thing that stood out the most to me was that people alleged that it would always happen at Sky Williams' houses, okay? And so that made me think, and it made a lot of people think, wait, so why isn't Sky Williams being called out for a lot of this? Because at the end of the day, he owned the houses, and he was around when all of this was happening. So what really is the go with Sky Williams? And we're going to jump into where it all began. Okay guys, so the first thing that we're actually going to go through here is the first screenshot that really came to light to really engage the conversation, which was a tweet put out by Walt or Watsu. And in it, he details what Sky Williams said in one of their group chats. And this is one of the group chats they had with all the house members, and I'm just going to read it off. I'm not going to name names at all, and I'll keep this vague. If people therein would like to confess, I don't mind. My goal isn't about any individuals. I saw a guest today. A guest I was not warned about in any facet of media with no receipts. Between the hours of 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., I will be breaking something of value in each of your rooms as I had clearly instructed from the house meeting. Or I can get $350 cash, no PayPal, no Chase Quick Pay, on my desk and to me before 6 a.m. This is final, there are no exceptions. Hide your valuable things if you must, but I'll find a way. Best of luck to you all. I'll be here waiting. There should not be any questions, as my words are direct and clear. Nobody's exempt, not even people who pay rent. You may physically stop me, but if I feel like I can't beat you in a fight, I'll just call the police and have you escorted away. And I'm sure that you all know that I'm not kidding. Anyway, 6 a.m., $350. Good luck. Sky Williams has left the group chat. Now, the first thing that I want to say is this is borderline sociopathic behavior. The fact that this man-child would go up to everybody who's paying rent and said that, hey, I saw someone in the house that I didn't even know. No one told me that he was invited here. So now I'm going to go break something of value in your house, in your rooms, or you give me $350. And he then goes on to say, you may physically stop me, but if I feel like I can't beat you in a fight, I'm just going to call the police and have you escorted out. I mean, to me, that's just a real, I don't want to, a cat move, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of pathetic, man, not going to lie. Something else that actually came to light was this person named FF Sade coming out and started to talk about what it was like at the Sky Williams house. And FF Sade is just a digital illustrator, by the way. But he starts off by saying that they lived there from 2014 to 2018, and it was cheap. It was cheap, so they took the opportunity straight away because it was in the LA area, and it was closer to the company where they dreamed of working. They also say that they left the house in June of 2018 because they felt like it was time to move on. The state of the house finally started to take a mental and physical toll on me. And as for personal experiences, it's hard to say. I'm used to living in weird situations. And then they go into detail about what the housing setup was like. There was a house A, house B, house C, and house D. And house A is where like the Jisoo, Zero, MacD, and Woody events occurred. And it was a one-story house with 2 bathrooms and 20 residents living at it at the time. And the rules. Okay, so there were 2 main rules I remember Sky enforcing regularly. Do not, in any circumstances, wake him up. You must notify Sky about any guest that you intend to visit. These rules became a thing no later in House B. If you didn't follow these rules, there could be punishments depending on his mood. In this example, he threatened to break something of value in every room unless he was paid $350, which is something that we already went over. House B had a rule where kitchen and living room must be cleaned every night or else he raised rent with it via a 3-strike system. For most of the residents, or certain privileges were taken away, e.g. borrowing his car, using laptop for anime movies, etc, etc. This part I honestly don't know much about because since I was exempt from that taxation due to having my own room. Someone else from the house, please expand on this. And then they kind of get into the social hierarchy of things. So as the owner of the household, Sky was of course the leader, one who held the most power and thus made the final say on what happened. If a unanimous decision occurred in that last minute, Sky had an impulsive change in heart to do the opposite. We went with it. So Sky had the last word. We still had some say in things though, and the higher you were on the hierarchy, the more power you had. Conversely, the lowest tier of housemates not only had little to no say unless it was convenient, but it wasn't uncommon for their entire existence to be ignored. It felt subhuman. There was no established written form of hierarchy, but essentially Sky had favorites, and those favorites had more say on everything. What constituted the tier arrangement was based primarily on how close you were to Sky. If you had money, had attractive ideals to him, or were of use to him, e.g. his editors and personal assistants, which he nicknamed workers or slaves, then you were most likely to be a higher tier. Housemates that played video games all day were often considered low tier, especially if they were pursuing a gaming career without notable results or were just consistently being one-upped by Sky. And this was one of the reasons why it was hard to speak up against Sky. If you wanted a higher quality of life, then you had to be on his good side. Sky was law, which sounds really like a terrible environment to live in. Like, let's be realistic. So rooming was extremely cramped in House C and D. In House A, there were 8 people to a single room. For example, 2 bunks, Sky's bed, and everyone else was on the floor. In House B and D, the garage was used as a bedroom with multiple people in it. A few individuals have their own room if they paid a lot, House A to D, or a higher tier on the social hierarchy. So can you guys imagine what it's like to live in a room with 8 other people, and then at the end of the day you have to listen to somebody who's basically like, if anything happened that was out of your power, you had no responsibility for it happening. You know, someone else invites someone that Sky didn't know into the house, and he goes into your room and breaks like something of value from everyone in that room. Sounds terrible. So then they go on to say the rent was split depending on the size of the room, how many people, etc., normal stuff. But if Sky had a higher tier resident did not like you, chances are that you had to pay an additional fee. So for example, you moved into the house and let's say, you know, Zero over there, he doesn't like you. Well, then you're getting charged $50 extra. Furthermore, romantic couples were given a fee in the form of a couples tax, though I forgot why. Someone clear this up for me. House D is where most housemates lived for free. I was a consistent rent payer until September 2017 due to accepting an offer from Sky. So communication, the house chat. So basically, nearly every resident of the household communicated via a Facebook Messenger group that we nicknamed the house chat. And there were a couple of housemates that were either kicked from the chat or weren't invited for whatever reason. House meetings. Sky would occasionally host in-person meetings where most, if not all, residents were required to attend. These were usually called upon to talk about drama or other matters such as room situations, moving, rent, etc. Unfortunately, not much happened during these meetings. The topics of discussions would often get derailed, and they said that there was secret chat groups like hierarchies. There were certain chats with selected housemates. As far as I'm aware, most of these chats were temporary. So we move on to the daily life, and I think this is something that most people would be interested about what happened in the Smash houses. So for the most part, everyone kept to themselves. If someone were to walk into the household at any point of the day, you would probably see at least 2 to 3 Smash setups occupied, and everyone else either in their rooms or on their computers. The only times people would get together aside from Smash was for board games and movie viewings, which is rare, food runs, which is common, smoking, which was common, social gatherings with alcoholic beverages, which is somewhat common, and house meetings, which is rare. And they think that this is partly due to the fact that people were at Sky's house for different reasons. Some Smash, some cheap rent, some locations, some collaborating with Sky on his YouTube channel. There were legitimately housemates that we would only see once a week. And it was complacent. It wasn't uncommon for us to do nothing all day or argue about whether or not McDonald's was performing better or worse that year, which was an actual 3-hour debate between 2 people. And the pace only really changed when Sky was around. Residents were used to waking up to him blasting YouTube poops or American Dad. Maybe some major Twitter drama happened, or maybe he thought of a really cool YouTube skit. And this could also affect bigger changes such as housing situations. We moved rooms frequently if, say, for example, he wanted to use the room for a studio/skit area. This happened most in House D and was a big reason why I left the house. Sky initially struck a deal with me since there was a resident who needed, and I'm not going to read the rest of this, but it essentially goes into detail about how Sky would make the person consistently change rooms because Sky would want to use something as a studio or something like that. And then they kind of go into this thing about how the conversations were usually would usually go. So residents were addressed by real names, smash tags, spirit animal nicknames that Sky gave us, e.g., monkey, gorilla, or eagle. Racial related nicknames that Sky gave us. House chat had its own nicknames, and residents would often change others. So the casual conversation had very little moral ground. It wasn't uncommon for racial slurs, sexual comments, or insensitive jokes regarding topics like suicide and rape to be a part of daily talk, and heavy talks were casualized. So you can imagine that, like, not only do you have to deal with the fact that there's a social hierarchy, there's also a lot of, very uncomfortable discussions going on in that house as well. It just sounds awful. So privacy, because so many people live there and there could be 8+ people to a single room, there technically was no privacy. It was absolutely normal in this house for people, even guests, to walk in and out of your room at any time. So on paper, it would seem that there was never any privacy, but in some aspects, it existed because everyone just did their own thing. You could literally disappear for a day and no one would notice, which to me just sounds awful. Like, I would hate the fact that, like, somebody could just walk in my room. I have very little connection to them and I would barely talk to them, and they can just walk into my room and it'll be like, oh, hey, what are you doing? Oh, nothing, just chilling. Oh, okay, can you leave? Okay. That's just so awkward. And they get into the topic of security. So people were always in and out, and the front doors of all the houses were always unlocked. House D, however, had a gate as well as a security camera at said gate. Stealing was a notable issue. If food was in the fridge, it was most likely going to be taken at some point. Towels, blankets, hygiene products, clothes, electronics, nothing was safe. I put one of my TV monitors in a closet for all of House C, and when I went to retrieve it, it was gone. I wouldn't say that stealing was always malicious or even intentional though. As for electronics, desks, etc., Sky often owned them and was usually down with people using them, so others' electronics might be mixed up in it all and mistaken for his. And spending. So spending was suboptimal. Money's always been an issue, and when Sky did receive money, it'd likely be spent on luxuries. When I moved into House A, he would treat everyone to KBBQ every other day, which is just Korean barbecue for anyone that doesn't know what that means. If there was a new camera, he had to get it. There was an instance where Sky needed rent, and when I gave it to him, he proceeded to go to Vegas that night to gamble. Another instance, a resident entered his room without permission, so he would spend the money we needed to survive on things to make himself comfortable. And then they also link this conversation that they had, and it just basically says, please don't walk into my room without texting me first. When you walk into my room and you just enter and I don't know you're there, all it does is make me anxious for no reason, and you just spam that in a group chat. For every time that these simple rules are just completely ignored, I'm going to spend money to prevent them in extreme ways. Lock, shock knobs, etc., etc. This money is money we need to survive, like rent and bills, but I don't mind spending it on things to make me feel more comfortable and then getting evicted in turn. Today I'll be spending $1,750 on things to prevent entry to my room so haphazardly. So, he even straight up admits this is money we need to survive, like rent and bills, but now he's just going to spend $1,750 to make sure that people don't enter his room abruptly. Maybe just invest in a lock, I don't know. And why no one spoke up. I can't speak for everyone, but quite frankly, people were scared. Sky is diligent when combing through social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, 4chan, so if something was said about him, we would 100% know. It was extremely difficult to confront him about issues directly. We'd be seen as ungrateful or straight up wrong, and his reaction could be far worse. I'll leave that to others to share their stories. One mild example would be the time he clashed with a housemate and ended up pouring a bottle of Coke all over the floor in a fit of rage. A couple of people did have the articulation and courage to challenge him, but they definitely had to tread lightly when it came to the Sky matchup. Ultimately, this speaks volume to the amount of bravery Jisoo needed to speak about everything that happened to her. Because of her, Smash Caps, and all the voices that are speaking out about the deep-rooted problems of the community, we can start to rebuild a much safer environment for Smash. Thank you so much. On a final note, I know this is a hot take, but despite all of this, I think Sky can change for the better. Deep down, I believe or want to believe that there were moments of genuine good, or maybe that was false. I don't know. Like I said, I'm conflicted. Anyways, thank you for reading. Hopefully this clears some questions up. So yeah, like after reading that article, honestly to me, it seemed like Sky Williams isn't really what we all thought he was going to be. Honestly, it paints a picture that Sky is a very manipulative person, and the environment that he set up for the people who were living there actually was really, really bad. And the fact that he would abuse that position as the person who owned those houses to basically do things like, threaten people's valuables if something he didn't like happened, or even threaten to spend their money instead of spending it on their bills like utility and rent. He would instead do something like buy extensive locks for his room because he didn't like people walking into it, which to me is just like, I can understand it, but at the same time, you don't hold everyone's money hostage for something like that. That's crazy. Something that I actually found very interesting was this tweet from a prominent member of the League of Legends community, Last Shadow. If you guys didn't know him, he's actually one of the LCK, I think it's a LCK, League of Legends casters, where he says, "I'm not retweeting as a sign of support or to condone his behavior. I'm tweeting this out for visibility because I'm supposedly going to be addressed towards the end. Sky has owed me $10,000 for 2 years after promising to pay me back in 6 months, then proceeded to keep asking for more." And this is in relation to Sky going live on Twitch, and I'll get into that in a second. So, without going into too much detail, Sky's VOD, or like, you know, his Twitch stream that he put up, he went into detail about a lot of things, and it was a lot of it was just incoherent rambling with him crying. But it's probably the biggest thing that came to light was the fact that he learned that an underage girl was actually being sexually assaulted in the house, but he didn't call the authorities immediately. And when he confronted the abuser, he actually mentions the abuser's name on stream, which the victim didn't want him to say the name at all. But he went and did it anyway. And the craziest thing is that he actually signed the residency agreement that says that she would be in his care, but when she disappeared, leaving all of her stuff behind, just during a day, he didn't call the authorities immediately. And he also went on and on about how he said that he loved her art and that he was trying to save her from working on someone else's game because he thought her talent was being taken advantage of. Yet in her statement, she told us that he hadn't even paid her for her work. So that's basically it, guys. It's actually crazy. And like another thing that one thing that I didn't touch on, geez, how am I gonna forget this, is someone sent a message to Sky basically asking him for details on, you know, some of the things that came out on Jackie's. If you guys don't know, the victim was named as Jackie, and in her big document that exposed everything from zero, Jackie actually goes on to mention that at the end of the document, that Sky was going to be next on their agenda, the one that they were going to expose next. And the person approached Sky with this information, and he was just like, "Next, what do you mean?" And let me screen cap it. This is the second to last page in that big Google Doc Jackie made. If you need any more context, I see. If there's anything else you need in regards to this, please let me know. For now, I'll just wait for your response. And then Sky says, "I'm about to spirit bomb Jackie." How about that? And then he proceeded to go on Twitch live in front of thousands of people, cry in front of thousands of people, saying how much he respects Jackie, how much he was trying to care for her, look out for her. And when in the Google Doc she says that she's going to expose him, he says, "I'm going to spirit bomb Jackie." So there you go. Very sensitive situation at the moment, I know, but I just wanted everybody to know what kind of person Sky Williams actually is. And so, yeah, that's basically it. So what do you guys think? You know, what do you guys think about the situation? Obviously, it's pretty screwed up, but I would love to hear your comments down below and let me know. Yeah. Thanks for watching.